Hey folks, it's Arjun from LangChain, and today I'm excited to announce a new feature that allows you to do prompt engineering and other node configuration and logic defining from directly within the LangGraph Studio UI. So first I'm going to walk you through what that looks like within the Studio UI, and then I'm going to show you my code and the setup necessary to enable this feature. So you can see here in this call model node, I have this edit node configuration button. And when I open this up, I see two settings for this node that I can configure. I can edit the system prompt that this node uses, and I can also edit the underlying model that this node uses. So taking a look here at this thread I asked the question to explain what is anthropic MCP, and we can see here I get this response. And if I wanted to test out a different prompt and see how that might edit the output, I can come into my node configuration and I can change the system prompt. So let's add something like tailor your responses to someone with limited knowledge of technology. And now I can save this and rerun with the new node configuration, and we'll see that this updated model response should reflect the new system prompt that's being used. And if I wanted to, I can go back and forth between these two responses and compare and contrast them. I can also try changing out the different models and seeing how that affects the graph output as well. So great, I've basically done prompt engineering from directly within the Studio UI. One thing I want to call out is you'll see this View Full Assistant Settings button. So when I click this, you can see that we open up the assistance modal and we're showing you the assistants and their fields, but with this new flag to show you for each assistant field which node it's being used in. So under the hood, in this node configuration, every time that I save an updated prompt, all we're actually doing is creating a new version of your assistant for you. So now let's take a look at the code that I have set up to allow me to pull in these configurations into this node. So jumping into Cursor, you'll see here I have this configuration class, and this defines the assistant settings that we use. And we notice that we have system prompt and model here, which were the two we were looking at inside the call model node. These are pedantic fields, and you can see I have a default, which is the default system prompt that we saw. But what's needed for this feature is this LangGraph nodes key. So you see here for the system prompt, I have LangGraph nodes defined. And LangGraph nodes is an array that accepts a list of node names. So essentially, any node that's defined inside of this array, the Studio UI will know to tag this field with this node. Similarly, LangGraph type, which I can assign to as prompt, allows us in Studio to render the prompt with a little bit more real estate, since we know that prompts can usually get a little bit longer. So this is just a ease of use tag that you can add to render the prompt a little bit more nicely. So I have these two fields. Model is also tagged with the LangGraph nodes call model key, and in my actual graph definition, in the call model node definition, you can see that we get in the configuration from this class, and the way that we actually load the model is by just reading configuration.model, and the way that we load the system message is just by reading in the system prompt. So this is just a way for me to define this as an assistant and then pull this logic directly into the graph. All that you need to be able to view and edit the node configuration from within the Studio UI, again, is this LangGraph nodes key with an array of the nodes for which this field applies. So to recap, I just walked through a way that now I can store and define and edit my prompts directly within the Studio UI and do this kind of prompt engineering and node configuration defining without having to context switch between my IDE and the Studio UI. I want to show you one way that you can actually extend this beyond just prompt engineering, but also to do more dynamic node logic definition. So you'll see here I have this tools node, and we're actually going to update this tools node to dynamically pull in a set of tools. So coming back into my IDE, you'll see I have this new field that we're going to uncomment called selected tools, and it's just a list between search and repeat. In my tools file, you can see I have this get tools function. Right now we're just returning our search tool, which just uses Tavily, but I'm actually going to uncomment this and add in this new logic, which reads the configuration and the tools defined under selected tools, and it'll add to the list of available tools depending on what's defined in our configuration. And in our code, you can see that when I create the tools node, we're calling that same getTools function and passing in the configuration under the hood. And so this allows us to dynamically construct this tools node with whatever tools are available to us as defined in this configuration. Again, notice that I've added the LangGraph nodes key and passed in tools as the set of nodes here. So now when I come back to the Studio UI, you'll see that I have the ability to define and edit the node configuration now for the tools node. So let's try a new message where we ask the model to do something like search for the height of Mount Everest. And you'll notice that in the way that I instantiated this, right now this tools node has access to no tools. There's no selected tools here. So when I do this, we're actually going to notice that we're going to try to make a search request, but it's going to fail. So right, we can see here that search is not a valid tool, and so the model just gives us an answer based on what it thinks. But now I can actually update this. So let's say we actually did want to give it access to the search tool. And if we save this and rerun from here, we'll see that we can successfully make the search request. Great, so we can see all the search results that come in, and then the model is able to give us an answer. So this is just another example of how I can use this feature to dynamically construct and define my nodes directly within the Studio UI without having to go back and forth between my code editor and my graph visualization. We hope you really enjoy this feature. Please try it out and let us know what you think. Thanks.